And at 10, Fazbear Frights owners. Now this is a bit of a cheaty one, but the guys who actually end up opening, or maybe where they're just like working in Fazbear Frights, the location that we're in for FNAF 3 don't actually have names, even like let alone faces. The guy who says that they found old training tapes, or the one who introduces the actual phone guy tapes, has never really been seen. Which makes sense given that he's not really a major character, but it's still something that I think is worth mentioning, okay? Because without them, there would be no FNAF 3, which means that there'd be no rest of the series. Like either because they wouldn't have opened the place if they didn't exist, or even if they weren't like the owners and they were just like the key holders or something, they wouldn't have been there to open the door, thus no gameplay other than just standing outside. So even if you're mad at me for it, these guys, whatever their names are, deserve their moment in the spotlight. So thank you, possibly deceased FNAF 3 guys, for your service to this series as a whole, as well as your contributions to breaking my brain. I really appreciate it. And at 9, Lewis. Lewis was introduced in FNAF AR through emails that he's lucky only he is able to see and not HR. Lewis is a creepy coworker of Ness who works IT at the company creating all the robots for the Fazbear Entertainment delivery service that we experience in Special Delivery, and is probably the creepiest damn character in the entire series, including William. You know what? Honestly, I'm surprised that he wasn't killed, especially because Ness is indeed Vanessa and Vanny, since he seems to be onto their scheme a little bit. Like, he's intercepted search queries and emails that just make Ness seem off and straight up like a serial killer, since she ordered realistic human masks at some point, didn't she? Well, honestly, we know more about these human masks than we do about Lewis, since we know nothing about him. We only know his name, not even a voice or a face. So yeah, Lewis is certainly one of FNAF's hidden characters. And for the few people in the comments saying that FNAF AR is a fan game, no it's not. Why on earth would you think that it was, okay? What gave you that impression? It is a canonical entry to the series. It's not a full game, but it's still like FNAF 8.5 at least. And at 8, Jeremy. As I've said in the Souls Trapped in Animatronics video, Jeremy is probably the biggest troll name in FNAF history, being used for 3 separate characters. However, only 2 of them are actually direct victims of William. Jeremy is the name of one of the original missing children who goes on to possess Bonnie. The other Jeremy is a playtester for the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience, the one who was testing the game before Tape Girl, who ends up finding the glitch trap anomaly, and that causes him to go mad. And by going mad, I mean genuinely psycho. It's since Jeremy ends up cutting off his own face, which is interesting, given that the Withered Bonnie animatronic as seen in FNAF 2 is also missing his face. It's interesting because like Withered Bonnie is the animatronic possessed by the missing children's incident Jeremy, but then this Jeremy cuts off his face. I mean, like, I don't know if that was, if it means anything or if it's intended or just a coincidence, but knowing this series, I'm always worried that like the smallest detail is gonna have the biggest consequence. Either way, okay, we don't end up seeing Jeremy's face before or after he removed it, and the fact that he removed it makes him even more hidden in my mind. But like, bro, seriously, how the hell did you do that? And at 7, original victims. While yes, we see the original victims' ghosts in the FNAF 3 Happiest Day minigame, as well as when they create Springtrap, they literally all use the same ghost sprite, okay? So we haven't really seen their true forms in the games. We've seen a potential look for Cassidy in the survival logbook, but within the context of the games, we've never really seen what the original missing children look like. So in a way, Gabriel, Susie, Fritz, Jeremy, and Cassidy are all hidden characters in that sense. I know that you were probably expecting this list to be about characters that we don't know about, but how the hell could we make that list? That just doesn't seem possible. If we don't know the characters, how are we supposed to find out about the characters for a list? I have no contact with Scott Cawthon, and even if I did, I don't think that he'd spill the beans on characters we missed. I don't think it would happen. And at 6, sister location technicians. The technicians are 2 employees of Fazbear Entertainment Inc. who used to work with the Funtime animatronics of Circus Babies Entertainment and Rental from FNAF's sister location. One technician is soft-spoken and seems bored with his job, implying that he may be used to it, while the other, who speaks using a Brooklyn accent, appears to be less experienced and more uneasy with the environment of Circus Babies. The 2 technicians appear for the first time during Night 4, when they use the scooper on Ballora, and during Night 5, their dead bodies are seen hanging in Ballora's gallery and the Funtime Auditorium. It's unknown why Ender didn't use one of their bodies to escape. Some fans speculate that it was because the Funtime animatronics wanted to make Michael Afton suffer, because, like, you know, they thought he was William, they wanted to get revenge, they wanted to torture him. However, we never actually get to see the faces of these characters, and on all honesty, in my opinion, they could still be fake. Considering how these animatronics are at times able to recreate the voices of other people, could these actually just be dummy bodies meant to scare us? And like, Ender needed Ballora to get scooped anyway so that she could then become a part of Ennard. So why would they want to kill them for revenge on that? Is it because of the shocking baby thing? Because like even then, I feel like baby's probably into that. Halfway through into number 5, Mrs. Afton. Despite the thorough belief in some fans that Mrs. Afton possessed Ballora, we haven't actually seen Mrs. Afton at all in the games. Well, honestly, we don't even know her actual 100% confirmed as canon name. So a hidden character Mrs. Afton certainly is. We don't even know what happened to her or if she really existed at all, or if Afton's kids just were adopted and then he used Ballora as a surrogate mother. Like sure, there's a family table in Security Breach with a mother at it, but that could just be because there was a mother figure in their lives at least. But we don't know if that figure was the kid's biological mother or hell if she was even human. So yeah, there also isn't really any evidence in the game or any other real part of the lore that suggests what happened to her if she was married to William. Some say that she dies in a car crash. I'd say that there's nothing that suggests she died at all, but it's FNAF, so that is a safe bet. But other than that, there's not really an explanation as to what happened with Mrs. Afton, or who she was as a person, or even as a mother, okay, if she ever got the chance to be. So yeah, mystery. In at 4, Tape Girl. Tape Girl was a developer for the Freddy Fazbear virtual experience in FNAF Help Wanted. However, given the unknown malicious code in the game, she left secrets scattered amongst the minigames in hopes that it would be dealt with at a later time. Procrastination right there. All of her tapes can be played in the tape room, which can be unlocked by hitting the tape placed on the shelf in the prize counter with any droppable item. Once unlocked, it can be accessed through the tape player placed above the smaller monitor in the level select room from blacklight mode. The tape room is mostly just darkness with a desk in the center, but on that desk there is a shelf where all the tapes that you've collected are stored. The player can listen to them by just selecting them, and then it goes in the tape player. You don't really need to pick anything up or move it. But all we ever see about Tape Girl is her voice. There is nothing else, which begs the question if she was even real, or if this is a sort of like glitch trap acting like baby thing, where he made her up so that we'd trust her, and then he ultimately locked us away in our minds. Honestly, I don't doubt that. I feel like that could be a thing, although it's not likely. Getting close to the end in number 3, the top. Now, whether or not she knew about this, okay, Vanessa's recommendation for the night guard position came from the top. That's how it's described in the game, which does end up confusing plenty of people in the administration, as we learned from other various duffel bags. She had no security experience, and she was being transferred from another part of the company, but nevertheless, she still got the job, despite multiple people saying that they wouldn't go forward with hiring her, which ultimately probably led to their deaths, if we're totally honest. So, who on earth is the one ordering her promotions? Seemingly, we got no idea. We could assume maybe it's William, but he's currently plugged in charging in the basement, so it would have to be someone else who knew her, and knew Afton's interest in her, and then made her a VR tester so that she could then get possessed, and then made her a security guard afterwards so that Afton could get her to do what he needed her to do. But who could it possibly be? Matat seems to think that it's Gregory as a hacker who's pulling the strings, but until that's confirmed, it's yet another person in this series that we've heard about but have yet to see. God damn it, Scott. But ultimately, in at number 2, Henry Emily. While Henry does ultimately perish thanks to the FNAF 6 fire, he honestly should have been a target for William beforehand, especially once he learned about who was actually committing crimes in the restaurants. But William didn't go after him for some reason. I mean, like, maybe it would have been too obvious. Like, there were 5 murders that occurred inside the walls of the restaurants, and they already suspect William for it, but then boom, his business partner goes missing, and William is left as the sole proprietor to the business. That is a super sus move that would definitely result in being ejected, okay? Like, motive means an opportunity. Motive, absolutely there, especially if, like, let's say William was, like, cheating with Henry's wife or something, which I doubt. But I mean, like, means easy to find. Just find the knife. And then, like, honestly, killing Henry would only have resulted in William going to jail, which probably saved Henry's life. But still, despite all of this, we still don't know what Henry looks like. I mean, we have the desk guy, who is like our best guess to be Henry, but that's 8-bit. And other than that, we have no look for him in the games. Maybe he shows up in like the Silver Eyes graphic novel, I'm not sure. But you're all adamant that the books and games are separate. Okay, so if he is, you can't yell at me in the comments without being hypocritical, okay? So if he's in the novels, if he's in the graphic novel where we actually get visual representation, you can't yell at me for it. I win. Ha! And finally, in number 1, Phone Guy. While in the end, Phone Guy wasn't the killer, he still isn't really very helpful in the long run, considering how he says that we aren't actually going to get killed. Well, okay, like he warns us to be careful, but he doesn't say explicitly you're going to die. I don't know. I don't like this guy, okay? He could have done so much more. And in essence, all he said was be careful, it's trial and error. Because honestly, after surviving this job for so long, you'd think that whoever this Phone Guy is would have had some goddamn tips on how not to die. But instead, he just gives us the freaking company motto. Like, I don't care if one of the animatronics bit someone 10 years ago, okay? They're trying to kill me now, what do I do? Anyway, this is the original FNAF hidden character. Okay, we know that he's voiced by Scott, but unless the Phone Guy is moonlighting as a rogue indie game developer, they aren't the same dude, okay? We have no idea what the Phone Guy looks like, okay? He can't look like Scott unless he is the indie game developer now. So yeah, we don't know what he looks like. And honestly, at this point, the Phone Guy might still be William Afton. And we can't tell since we've never seen him. I mean, we've heard William talk, but maybe he was just faking an American accent like freaking Tom Holland does, okay? It's a thing. And its end names don't matter. Scott Cawthon is the creator of the FNAF games, so I think that we can take his word for everything in the series. Unless he's trying to troll us at least. And in an interview, I'm pretty certain with Daco, he said that the names he gave the characters don't really matter. There wasn't much thought behind it, especially in the first game. The names of Jeremy, Fritz, and Mike Schmidt don't really matter. Now, whether the names of all the characters don't matter is up for debate, since he, after the first game, wanted to tell a story, so we unfortunately can't throw away or confirm the Mike Schmidt-Michael Afton connection yet. However, if you're currently looking into the meaning of those names, and maybe even names like Gregory or Elizabeth, maybe it's best to hold off on that until it's our only option. I personally don't think that we've presented every possible scenario yet, mostly because other people don't want to hear anything other than what's been generally understood right now. Like what we generally accept as what happened in FNAF, people don't want to hear something else. But hey, that's not my problem. And at 9, the books. The main series of FNAF books, those being the Silver Eyes, the Twisted Ones, and the Fourth Closet, don't have much connection to the actual games. They tell a different story, yet on another Earth or something like that. However, they are from the same mind as the games, so they do share common elements, and they would have some hints to help us figure out the base series, because he'd already have a story in mind for that, and he can't really just lose it entirely. But where the books really come in clutch is the Fazbear Fright series, a book series originally said to only have 5 books that ended up getting itself some more. The Fazbear Frights books are, by Scott's own words, meant to help us solve various aspects of the games, and that's where these books come in handy. Without them, we wouldn't know how William always came back, or that he just never died until actually possessing the hard drive, and many, many more things. So maybe if you're looking for answers, these books are the place to go first. Also because these stories are genuinely scary. And at 8, FNAF Multiverse. I personally cannot wait for the FNAF Multiverse canon. I'm really interested to see where that canon's story will go, and if it will be easier to follow than the main FNAF story. The new universe, of course, being thanks to the Fazbear Fanverse initiative Scott has put together, helping fan game creators have funding to make additional games in their series, or releasing new and updated versions for their old games, with popular series like Five Nights at Candy's getting another game, as well as The Joy of Creation getting a remade collection. But this also contains FNAF Plus, a fan recreation of the first game which looks utterly terrifying, and will serve as the start of that FNAF universe's timeline. If they used like the main games, it would be complicated and like it would be weird, okay? Like from a lore perspective, like it would have to be the exact same thing, and it would be weird. I love the idea of multiple Earths, as I'm sure you all know, where anything you can imagine is literally happening on another planet, and I think that that's really inspirational at times. Like you can literally do whatever you want, like whatever you set your mind to, because it's happening somewhere already. You just gotta have it happen here too. Like how else am I supposed to find the motivation to take over the world? Honestly. And at 7, the apple tree. The saying goes the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and while that isn't always the case, it certainly became the case for Elizabeth in the FNAF series. Elizabeth being the daughter of the purple guy we all know and some of us love a little too much. You know, William Afton. Elizabeth, however, gets scooped on the first day of Circus Baby's Pizza World being open and gets the place shut down after a single day. She ends up possessing the animatronic in a story we all know too well, but she goes a little crazy while being an animatronic, willing to kill you in sister location when the power goes out, and then, you know, killing Henry in FNAF World, which is kind of poetic in a way. Like father, like daughter in this case. William took Henry's daughter's life, and William's daughter took Henry's life, which is weirdly beautiful but also horrible. And this girl is out there chopping heads off, and she like wasn't even old enough to make a Club Penguin account. Yikes. And it's 6 stuck in the middle. And to those of you who may be confused as to why it would have been Elizabeth killing Henry even though she was possessing Baby at the time of his death, Elizabeth is still inside Baby. We can see it much like how we can see the body of someone else in Funtime Freddy's wireframe and the blueprints in FNAF 6. There is actually a body of a kid stuck inside Baby as well. And I don't know about you, but I don't think that William would have taken his daughter's body out of Baby since she had, you know, possessed the animatronic and then just like threw Baby back out there to collect more kids instead of studying her even more. Like at this point, William already knew about Remnant, but he had never seen it work. He had never seen the possession work. He knew about it, but he didn't know about it, you know? But this time, it had something to do with his family. He had a personal stake in the matter. And the FNAF 6 wireframe is what Henry was using to lure Baby back so that he could release Elizabeth, and doesn't mention any other kind of kid that would be trapped inside of Elizabeth, or Baby, or whatever, they're the same thing. So, yeah. Halfway through at number 5, fan art. Continuing on the FNAF multiverse idea, the whoopsie we know from the original cover art of FNAF VR Help Wanted could be in fact another addition to this multiverse. While not intended, the original cover art did contain fan art. The FNAF multiverse opens up this cover to actually being a reality. If anything, these could already be in theory canon because it's been made and released. It's not some theoretical thing that could have happened, it actually did happen, and there was a decent kerfuffle about it when the news first dropped. But at least it could be a way to get like a few more characters into the FNAF multiverse, which is definitely going to be a thing with the new FNAF games, and already a thing with the books and the upcoming movie. At least at some point, because this thing is going to have us waiting longer than The Elder Scrolls 6. And that hurts me to say on a personal level. Headed for Glitch Trap Conspiracy. Glitch Trap is the antagonist of the latest main series title, FNAF Help Wanted, the VR title that later got itself a flat version. However, he was supposedly an accident after being scanned in when they used a hard drive in order to make the AI of the animatronics. However, for an accident, this character is able to do an awful lot in game. He can interact with things like curtains and other sections of the game. Like, how is he able to do that if he was just an accident? Sure, they would have AI, but they would have had to code separate collision, right? Maybe not because like he's a spirit, but who knows. It just seems off to me like he had to have some form of help to get the control that he does in game. At least being able to interact with aspects of the game. Like he shouldn't be able to do that, right? Even we can't move curtains and stuff. The hard drive was just for AI, not collisions. And no other animatronics really move things other than Foxy and the camera and the DLC. Like, at least from what I've seen. Like, and the whole like, oh yeah, here, use this hard drive, it'll help you with the AI, that just seems shifty to me. I don't know, it's weird, okay? Something's going on there. Vanny wasn't around yet, so who did it? Who gave him the hard drive? Who did it? Which one of you? No one's going home until someone tells me who did it. And at 3, flash forward. One confusing part of the game lore to me is the death of Henry Emily, the father of the puppet and the one who set the fires in both FNAF 3 and FNAF 6. Since he stays to burn in FNAF 6, so nobody will remember the horrors that occurred. But thanks to FNAF World's additional cutscenes after an update, where we see the introduction of Baby and the death of Henry, who we figured was Henry because he says he helped create the monster, which would most likely be referring to William or the animatronics, but either way, Henry helped. But like I said, if he dies in FNAF World, how is he alive in FNAF 6? That couldn't have been Henry, right? Well, who else is at the FNAF 6 location? Baby. It could very well be that this is a flash forward to the FNAF 6 location even before sister location had been released, which is crazy and pretty cool. It also explains why Baby had to get kicked out of the Enter tribe, because she had to be a separate entity so that she could kill William, like that cutscene. And at 2, no sequels. This is fairly common knowledge, but it's something everyone seems to forget, and honestly, it's crazy to think about. The original game was meant to be Scott's final attempt at being a game designer after multiple games not taking off. But thanks to some incredible ideas, reviews, mysteries, and YouTuber support, the game blew up and got itself some sequels. However, since there was no intended sequel, the canonicity of the first game can be confusing. Does it matter? Should we ignore it? No, because while it may be slightly outdated, Scott has said that the game still has significance and the game is still canon. What that really means is unknown, like if all the parts of it matter, or if we should just keep an eye on this game since it will be needed to sort out the whole timeline. Like, we don't know if all of it matters or if the things that don't conflict aren't canon. We aren't sure. Finally, in at number 1, the end. There was actually meant to be an end to FNAF. The Five Nights series wasn't intended on being more than one game, as I said before, but after it got a sequel, the game wasn't going to be as long as we know it to be today. The story wasn't going to be as complicated and convoluted as it is now, because the series was supposed to end after FNAF 3. The series was going to be fairly cut and dry. William kills 5 kids by luring them into the back room and then they get possessed. The restaurant closes and then reopens after sealing his Springtrap body inside. He is then released and Fazbear Frights opens, but burns to the ground with him inside, and with FNAF 3 being the original ending, William would have died in that fire, and honestly, I would have loved that. No confusing crying child or Big Brother shenanigans, no convoluted timeline, but Scott ended up making FNAF 4 because the community was overall disappointed with the Springtrap jump scare, and he didn't want something that disappointed people to be the last game of the series. That's why the Nightmare animatronics are so terrifying. It's an overcorrection. And honestly, I understand, because, like, I am too. I'm disappointed with it. Hence why I don't think that Springtrap is that scary of an animatronic, but also because he isn't an animatronic, he's a dude in a suit, but still. So yeah, FNAF 3 would have been the end of the series if the Springtrap jump scare had actually been scary. So I guess we can thank William for our continued content and channel growth. Thanks, dude. Many lives have been sacrificed. That's also from another interview of his, in case you're wondering.
Nintendo House. The FNAF 4 house is one of the most iconic houses of all time. Okay, probably not true, but it's the most iconic house in FNAF at least, and we only get to see it in FNAF 4, at least that's what we thought, until the Curse of Dreadbear DLC for FNAF VR Help Wanted came out. In that DLC's main hub, where we select the minigame we want to play, or in my case, have to play, we can see 2 hills in the distance. Whenever there isn't a giant Dreadbear looking over you, you can see a house on the hills, very similar to how we see the house in FNAF 4 screens. Not only that, but if you turn the game to blacklight mode, press the button on the monitor and then turn around to look at the car behind you for 10 to 15 seconds, you can see Glitch Trap dancing on the hill next to the house. Well, on the other hill. And since people were confused about who Glitch Trap was, this is probably Scott's way of showing that the FNAF 4 house is his and that Glitch Trap is William Afton. But we all know that now 100% thanks to the man in room 1280 from the Fazbear Frights book In the Flesh. In at 9, Dark Carnival. And the recently released FNAF spin-off game FNAF Security Breach Fury's Rage, which I just played on the channel, click up in the top right corner to check that out. You fight as one of the 4 Security Breach animatronics against a slew of enemies. These enemies include the Clown Springtrap skin from FNAF AR's Dark Carnival event. And not only do we see the character, we can actually see the carnival in the background when they get introduced. At least in the level they get introduced. Clown Springtrap gets introduced in the 2nd level to the game, I believe, and while scrolling through the streets, whenever the background isn't blocked by buildings in the middle, you can see the top of a tent, no doubt meant to be the carnival. Why there are so many Clown Springtraps, I don't know. Why they're after us, I don't know. And why we never see Magician Mangle or Ringmaster Foxy is another mystery. But it's still a nice little detail nonetheless. In at 8, Eyeless Animatronics. FNAF 1 has the famous Eyeless Bonnie screen that can appear during hallucinations or when you die. However, I know some of you may not be aware that FNAF 2 actually has a similar screen, along with 2 others. Yes, FNAF 2 has 3 eyeless animatronic screens, all with a 1 in 1,000 chance of appearing. These being Eyeless Toy Bonnie, Eyeless Freddy, and Eyeless Foxy. It's interesting how Bonnie is the only animatronic to have 2 eyeless versions, and Chica doesn't have one at all. I don't know how this applies to the lore, if at all, or if they're just hallucinations that Scott added to make us look for more mysteries within the hallowed halls of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, but it literally is. But it's the only animatronic that doesn't have an eyeless version. It's Chica. That's kind of interesting. Maybe it's because she was the first and has seen everything. Haha, so she has to have eyes because she's seen everything. And it's 7, Mask Switch. FNAF's sister location is one of the more popular games in the series and has quite a lot going for it, basically being a turning point in the series where the game started to revolve around the Afton family even more. However, at the top of the primary control panel through most of the game, you see what will become Ennard's mask. But every so often, for some reason, it changes to Lolbit's head. I don't know why, but it can. And then it will switch back at some point. That's it, really. Don't know why it changes, since it can do so before Ennard is even created, but it happens. And it's kinda hidden if you don't look up there too often, so there you go. And at 6, Lolbit Butters. While the name of the number may entice anyone who is sad that the Brawler game was not called Furry's Rage, this is not about any interaction with Lolbit to make butter. Rather, in fact, in FNAF VR we can collect coins that we use to unlock various prizes at the prize counter. Upon collecting all of the coins, an exotic Butters basket will appear on the counter. On the bottom of the basket lies a button for some unknown reason. When pressed, however, you can see Lolbit's screen appear on the monitor up and to the left of the prize counter. It's unknown why this happens, but it's still pretty cool and something not everyone will know about unless they watched someone play through the whole game and collected everything or have done so themselves. But I guess most of you will have either watched or done it yourselves. And there is at least one person who has clicked off this video at this point because it wasn't about Lolbit's butter. Halfway through it at number 5, Secret Poster. This is so secret even I don't know what it looks like, and I can't find any answers or images on Google. The FNAF VR DLC has a barn as its victory screen whenever you complete a game. When you win, you're brought to this barn, basically. However, there are 3 posters that can be one of 3 things, and in the distance there is a 4th secret poster that never changes, but you can't really get a good look at it without boundary breaking. And since I can't do that, I'm forced to remain trying to squint and see what it looks like. I think it has to be some version of Chica for sure.
Yo, what is that poster? Is that Chica or something? I think that's Chica.
This has been bugging me for so long that I actually might have to get the mod so I can move around just so I can know. It's not lore solving and it's not really that important, but it's a hidden detail that is still hidden to me. It bothers me to my core. And at 4, Radioactive. No, I'm not singing Imagine Dragons. I'm talking about another FNAF AR animatronic. This time talking about Radioactive Foxy from the Wasteland event, I believe it's called. This skin for Foxy makes him glow bright green and gives him a second hook on his right hand, as if he had 2 heads because radiation mutates things. Get it? Well, the character also has a radioactive symbol on him, and I don't care how crazy this world is, there is no way an animatronic got that symbol put on them with radiation. It's an animatronic, not an organic being. So even the 2 hooks would be impossible naturally, meaning that this character was created to be radioactive, and that's probably the scariest thing of all. At least Fazbear Entertainment is doing something normal companies do, like dumping toxic waste into animatronics or something like that. This seems more normal than sending out versions of your killer to homes with families inside. With all they've done, it's nice to see them do some actual normal company things. Gotta love capitalism. That's just proper grammar. Get it? Because capital letters? No, just me? Okay. And at 3, Coffee. In FNAF VR Help Wanted, you can see multiple animatronics. However, the most interesting one is probably the coolest hidden secret animatronic, and it's Coffee, which isn't even an animatronic from the FNAF series. It's actually from another one of Scott's games which failed, like every other game before FNAF unfortunately, at least until FNAF was successful, then the other games did well also. The game from which Coffee hails is called Desolate Hope, and in that game Coffee is an autonomous service robot designed to tend to the needs of nearby humans. It basically is a sentient coffee machine that actually makes coffee. Welcome to Yog Labs. Coffee can be seen in FNAF 3 if you reload the level enough times, and he will be sitting on your desk, unable to be interacted with, and he won't actually make you coffee, which sucks because, you know, when I'm freaking out, when a 60-year-old dude trapped in an animatronic is coming after me, coffee will really settle my nerves. But I'll definitely need it if I'm working from 12 to 6, that's for damn sure. Imagine FNAF, but like real time. Dear God. And at 2, Game Link. This Easter egg was pointed out by Matat in one of his timeline videos for Ultimate Custom Night, where he started the video spending 10 minutes downloading a fresh copy of both FNAF World and Ultimate Custom Night so that nothing had been unlocked yet. In FNAF World, you are able to dive deep into the game code and visit Old Man Consequences, who will say some things and then ultimately make you drown yourself before you can get out. This reveals a secret ending to the game and gives you a trophy for it. In Ultimate Custom Night, you are also able to visit Old Man Consequences, who tells you to leave the demon to his demons and rest your own soul. However, if you do this, you'll need to drown yourself again to leave the game. Doing this, while never even playing a second of FNAF World though, will unlock the Old Man Consequences trophy, which is odd, but might be Scott's way of saying that the game is still canon. I mean, it did talk about sentient code, and that things in-game can infect the real world, since you lay out the clues for FNAF 3, probably hinting at the fact that the game may be key in solving what the lore is going forward, since we're seeing the same sorts of things emerge: sentient code, games affecting the outside world, and potentially working its way into ours. Finally, in at number 1, it's me. There are only 2 people who have been able to get this Easter egg to my knowledge, and it involves getting the Curse of Dreadbear DLC and completing a game to be taken to the Victory Barn. There you will find 3 posters reminiscent of the ones from the Alleyway and Pizzeria Simulator. However, this is where the ability to unlock this Easter egg is determined. You need to get 3 clown posters, which is incredibly rare, and I mean incredibly rare. Plus, you need to hit them all with darts, which you only get 4 of, and if you miss 2 of them, you're screwed. I've looked for this Easter egg for hours on both my personal channel during live streams and on the live stream on this channel from before the previous lockdown, since I want to find this myself, and I want to so badly, since if you manage to do this, the barn changes to a seemingly black-like version, where the victory banner changes to read "It's me," and everything starts glowing because of the black light. YouTubers Johnny Blocks and apparently Dawko are the only 2 to have gotten this Easter egg from what I've seen and what I've been told in the comments. Not even Matat was able to get this, and Eddie VR wasn't really trying. I may have to keep live streaming the game until I find it, but it's going to take me a while, I'm sure, and emotional torment. But this series already does that. In a 10 Scrap Trap. FNAF Fury's Rage was probably the most fun I've had while playing a FNAF game. No scares, no intense lore to figure out, only a few bits here and there. One of those bits was the inclusion of Scrap Trap laying on the ground as presented in the FNAF 6 loading screen. The character is interactable and doesn't move, but this begs the question, is this where he was left? Is this the alley that we see him in FNAF 6? And if it is, was the Dark Carnival behind it as it is presented in this game? Either way, whether it is or not, it's a cool Easter egg and serves as further confirmation that the FNAF AR animatronics are canonical within the main game lore. Unless it's in a different spot, then maybe they aren't. Or maybe this is where he was before going to the FNAF 6 location, since Henry had to lure him there. I don't know. It can give some implications though. It would be nice to get anything confirmed as canon at this point though, honestly. And at 9, 1985. The security panel code of 1985 from Sister Location revealing images of the FNAF 4 house is not a new thing. This has been known for ages and was used by many to confirm the events of FNAF 4 taking place in 1985. But this begs the question, where did these rooms come from? If this does confirm the events of that game taking place in 1985, why are the houses that we play in during the 8-bit and main gameplay so different? It could be an illusion since we know the animatronics are, but if that was the case, how would the cameras be seeing that? And if these are 2 different houses, why? And what does that mean for the series overall? Hell, where is the parents' bedroom in the 8-bit house? There is a locked door in the living room, but is that the room? And even if it was, where's the plush trap hall? This is one thing that has always bothered me about that game, honestly. And like, I know, right? Really, out of all things that bother me, that? Yes, it is. And it 8 secret animatronics. While not being the main feature of any minigame, the mini arenas actually appear in FNAF VR Help Wanted, in the Plush Trap Darkroom. When loading into the game, you have a chance to see them in one of the doors. This is probably just a distraction tactic used to make things more difficult so you're more likely to get jump scared, but it's still damn well going to work, because it's such a rare thing that I want to look at it more and more. And you can also encounter a Biddy Bap doll in Babies minigame, you know, the one where you need to close the closet doors in the FNAF 4 house, but not for too long, otherwise the plush babies are gonna kill you. Yeah, you can see Biddy Bap near the door on rare occasions, and honestly, it's just kinda freaky. Also, can I just say, that minigame must suck for anyone with pediophobia, which is the fear of dolls. Just solidifies everything that you fear. I still have to beat that game though. Like, I think I'm prepared to play it for a video or a live stream, what have you, but then it actually starts and I instantly regret my decision to put myself in that situation. Like, even if it was to find those animatronics, just no. Instant regret. And it's 87 days. This is fairly well known at this point, but there are some of you who are new fans to the series and don't quite understand how crazy this is. The first FNAF game was released on August 8th, 2014, a day after my friend's birthday nearly 8 years ago. That game was a hit after being discovered by Matat as well, who really introduced many of us, if not most of us, to the series. The game did end up getting a sequel, obviously in the form of the FNAF 2 prequel, which was released on November 11th, 2014. While you may not understand the intensity of that is hella quick for a game to be made from the start, even with the existing mechanics already in place, especially with all the new things we got in that game. However, the game was released 87 days after the first, which to anyone who knows the slightest bit of FNAF lore will instantly have alarms go off. 87 days? Like the bite of 87? Yes, exactly. That's just absolutely bonkers. Not only did he make the game within that time, but he released it perfectly. I still don't know if it's a coincidence, but knowing Scott, this is the first in a long series of lore teasers and hints, and I find that absolutely astounding. And at 6, the box. The FNAF 4 box has, like the bite of 87, been a pain in the ass to all FNAF fans, and those who try to explain things have been struggling for a while to explain what could be inside the infamous box. However, FNAF 6 might have given us the answer that we were looking for with its final speech, Henry's final speech, from the true ending of that game. Take a look.
That you are trapped. Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near.
Did you see it? The layout of the FNAF 6 pizzeria is oddly similar to the layout of the FNAF 4 box. And stories from Candy Cadet talking about 5 things becoming one thing and then getting put into a box makes sense of this as well. 5 animatronics, however you want to count it. Baby, Scrab Trap, Molten Freddy, the Puppet and Lefty, or Molten Freddy is most of them. However it works out, even if you include your character, 5 things are becoming one fire in the smoke that is Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. While William may have escaped, Henry sticks around. Maybe that's what the box is meant to represent. The box being reality and William being able to escape from it, become a freaking virus, and then infect people's brains. Who knows, really? No, seriously, tell me who knows, because I need to know. Halfway through into number 5, the job. Going off this FNAF 6 existentialism, who was the job meant for? In that same speech, we hear Henry talk about us finding the job even though it wasn't meant for us, and that there was a way out for us planned even though we don't want it. But him saying that it wasn't meant for us implies that there was someone who it was meant for. But who? If it was just anyone, he wouldn't have said that it wasn't meant for us, because it wasn't meant for anyone. Him saying that implies there was someone specific that he had in mind for this task, but who was it? Does Henry have a son, and he was going to use the speech at the end to say goodbye rather than scold the animatronics? Or was it meant for someone he trusts, perhaps his wife if she's still around? I like the idea that it's his son, who we never ended up seeing, but why wouldn't he just ask him instead of putting the ad out normally? I don't know. What do you think? Let me know down below. And at 4, El Chip. In the Security Breach GeForce RTX trailer, we see many things, from the back rooms to the food court. And in that food court, we see a shot of its Mexican restaurant, with a statue of El Chip from FNAF 6 on the left, some cacti decorating the place, some air hockey tables in the back, presumably some other arcade games as well. That's probably the Fazcade so that the kids can play while the parents finish eating. But we also see animatronics fly past us as they go off to serve some food. But as they pass us, we see an arcade game having something to do with El Chip in the bottom left of the screen. I can't quite tell what the game is, all I could make out is El Chip, but it should be some form of pinball or something, based on the shape of the machine at least. If you didn't already know though, El Chip is a Mexican themed beaver animatronic and is the mascot of El Chip's Fiesta Buffet in the Fazbear universe, and is a purchasable animatronic in FNAF 6's catalog. He will actually interrupt you with advertisements for his restaurant and Ultimate Custom Night, where you will need to mute him before alerting sound-sensitive animatronics, and the character is presumably based on Chipper from Chipper and Sons Lumber Co., another one of Scott's games, where the idea of FNAF actually originated because someone said the characters looked animatronic. Nice little homage. Getting close to the end in number 3, Hospital Room. One of the common theories about what was going on in FNAF 4 is that what we were experiencing is in the mind of Crying Child, who was laying in the hospital because of a bite and who will die at the end of the game. This theory was first brought on by the Easter eggs of an IV, a vase of flowers, and a jar of pills that can be visible next to the child's bed when the screen is brightened, because we all know how much we loved to brighten screens. And now we're digging through source code and linking details in books. My, how far we've come. Getting kids to actually read. The vase, flowers, and IV are no doubt referencing the idea that we are truly waiting in the hospital and in a coma trying to cheat death. And thanks to the flatline we hear at the end of the game, however, we know we either don't succeed or are taken off the machine. This led to the idea that the whole game series is a dream, which was proven false thanks to the joke April Fool's Day mechanics of Nightmare Fredbear and Ultimate Custom Night. And at 2, VR Sisters. The VR Sisters, as far as I know, were introduced into the FNAF series in Security Breach Fury's Rage. They're the bosses of Stage 1 and are fought again in Stage 3 as regular enemies. But my question is, who are they? They don't have names, they don't talk, they don't do anything other than fight us, but they wear VR headsets and have a kinda similar theme to the FNAF AR arcade animatronic skins. You know, VR Toy Freddy and High Score Chica being the most like this, and I mean like the blue and yellow grid patterns they have going on their arms and legs. But that could also just be leggings and sleeves and not their actual body. The thing is, we don't know who they are, if they're human or if they're animatronic, and at this point it's up for debate, and I don't even know if it matters in the long run. It could totally be for nothing. These characters could mean nothing to the story. We could see them in the full Security Breach, or they could fade away into nothing. It bothers me. Clearly. Finally, in at number 1, Matat. I've mentioned this in other lists, but Matat, or at least the Game Theory YouTube channel, is actually canon in the FNAF series, thanks to the Fazbear Frights books. I can't quite remember which one. If someone knows, maybe they can tell me in the comments, but at one point a character says that's just a theory, and then the book proceeds to describe it as like their favorite YouTuber, or something like that. Basically confirming that Matat, game theory, film theory, or food theory exist in that universe, since he says it at the end of every video. But like, do you think it's food theory? Because that would be hilarious. He would have definitely done some theory on Fazbear Entertainment if it's actually food theory. Because like, I mean, he tested Chuck E. Cheese pizza, right? So maybe the equivalent of that video in the FNAF universe is going to Freddy Fazbear's. I mean, that would be hilarious. I'd watch that, even in that universe. But I mean, like, he could probably get sued into the ground for that. Or maybe he'd just be the one that they also blame for their reputation like they did with Scott's equivalent in the universe. Who knows at this point? I don't, and I want answers.
In at 10, Daycare Hall. One of the most interesting aspects of a free roam game is all the secret areas and Easter eggs you can hide, like the Portal 2 Easter egg hidden in Skyrim of all games. However, in FNAF, it's much more than that, since each tiny Easter egg or detail can help us figure out what the hell has been going on in this series for the past 8 years, which makes the appearance of secret little cubby holes around the Pizzaplex very interesting. Like the one for the Moondrop and Sunnydrop animatronic hidden behind the daycare center, behind a Foxy poster unlocked by taking pictures of certain cardboard cutouts that are also actually on the poster, which makes me think, are there more areas that need to be unlocked like that, or something like that? I'm sure many have tried various things, but I don't know, it feels like there should be one for like the laser gun equivalent. In this little hole, however, you can find a mini game called Balloon Boy World, which we will talk about more later on. But also, it contains a duffel bag with lore and the Golden Moon animatronic plush required from one of the achievements, so it's certainly somewhere that you'd want to go. You can also get the achievement for playing the Balloon Boy World minigame also. And at 9, Vanessa Therapy. Something I was unaware of until completing the game and getting Roxy's eyes were 16 retro CDs that can be found towards the end of the game. You have to actually have Roxy's eyes to see them though, because they don't spawn in unless you have the eyes. These can be played with a CD player hidden in a sister location secret room. The retro CDs require Roxanne's eye upgrade on Glamrock Freddy, and for the CDs to spawn in, Gregory has to be inside an upgraded Glamrock Freddy, be near the disc and like looking at where it would be, and then exiting to actually be able to collect it, otherwise it won't spawn in if you're looking away. The order in which the CDs are found does not seem to affect which recordings are unlocked, just the amount of CDs found, which is clearly a reference to the 16 tapes found in FNAF VR that weren't really found in a particular order. Collecting them just seemed to unlock them in sequence. However, these tapes seem to also contain therapy sessions between Vanessa and a therapist, as well as a therapist and another individual who goes unnamed, but could also be Gregory. We don't know because they never talk. And at 8, Fire Dave. One of the various lore duffel bags we can stumble upon in this game is a customer complaint titled Hi Dave, which upon inspection reads, quote, "Customer complaint. You should fire Dave, he sucks." And while it's short and sweet and to the point, it also is seemingly a reference to the FNAF novels, since if you're unaware, in the novels William Afton was introduced, but at first he was going by the alias Dave Miller. And considering how this customer says that we should fire Dave, I think that's a pretty telling way to reference the book's most infamous famous employee, and also reference the fact that Afton is in the Pizzaplex right below our noses. This duffel bag can be found on the farthest left bench next to the lockers in customer service, which seems to indicate that Dave also worked in customer service. Just a horrible place for a serial killer to work, just saying. And at 7, Joy of Creation. The anticipation for the Fazbear Fanverse initiative is building now that Security Breach has released and we don't know anything about what's coming next in the main FNAF universe. However, there are actually references to some of the Fanverse games in Security Breach. For example, the Joy of Creation Easter eggs of Ignited Freddy and Ignited Bonnie found on the House of Bear and House of Bear 2 arcade cabinets found around the Pizzaplex. This is something I actually picked up on my first time through, so needless to say, it's pretty damn cool that I was right about it. The House of Bear cabinet has Ignited Freddy's silhouette standing in the doorway, and House of Bear 2's machine features Ignited Bonnie's face, which could be considered Withered Bonnie, but given the context of Ignited Freddy on the other one, I think it's safe to say that this is Ignited Bonnie. Plus, this can also explain how these games fit into the main timeline, since the Fanverse games could just be the games that Scott's in-universe counterpart made. It would also explain why they have their own FNAF 1 version titled FNAF Plus. And at 6, Freddy Mercury. Did you know that Freddy Fazbear in the opening cutscene to FNAF Security Breach is actually making a reference to Freddy Mercury? Yeah, neither did I. But thanks to some helpful YouTube commenters, not on these videos, on other videos, it was pointed out to me there. While on stage when showcasing his name, Freddy Fazbear strikes a similar pose to Freddy Mercury, which is kind of iconic and understandable given that both their names are Freddy. And I don't really want to see Freddy getting up on his toes, grabbing his crotch and yelling, "Ow!" in reference to Michael Jackson. Someone also ended up making an album cover for the glam rock band singing Bohemian Rhapsody, which is absolutely iconic and I love it. I kind of want to hear this now though. Like, why can't we have this instead of like Freddy telling Gregory that he needs to vent like a sussy baka? Like, why has that been going around? Like, Gregory, have you heard of Among Us, Gregory? You need to vent. I don't know. And why is my TikTok For You page filled with FNAF memes and FNAF related content all of a sudden, okay? It was like the one safe place I had. But now there's like glam rock Freddy filters and like sunny drop filters and Gregory being a sussy baka and like, but Vanessa, I'm a material girl things. Like, what the f, man? Why? Halfway through into number 5, Gregorys Missing. This is something I picked up on in the second ending I got in my playthrough, in what is commonly referred to as the worst ending, where you simply leave the Pizzaplex by yourself without Freddy. The first ending I got is actually the Vanny ending, which to me is my canon ending. It's a different way to explain that. But in this ending, Gregory ends up running away and hiding in a cardboard box. This box is assumed by most to be his home since he doesn't really have one and can't really return to the Pizzaplex. However, this is where this detail comes in. The newspaper he's using as a blanket has multiple silhouettes of the children who have gone missing this time around. 9 of them, this time to be exact. However, the one in the bottom left corner looks an awful lot like Gregory when he's standing in front of all those security monitors in the first Security Breach trailer. I'm just saying, especially when Vanessa says that he's been wiped from the system, and I'm pretty sure one of those lore bags also shows us that we've been wiped from the system as per someone's request. So that's certainly not a coincidence. And I doubt Scott used it and just thought, oh yeah, this is easy, let's do that. No, not a chance. There has to be something there. And at 4, Monty the Murderer. One of the biggest questions this game seems to have is where did Bonnie go? While with sister location, simply put, Funtime Chica was rented out, that's not really the case with Bonnie in Security Breach. We hear Freddy say that there isn't a bunny here anymore in a somber way as if he was killed, but by who is the bigger question. In the lore duffel bags, we can find various bits of evidence though that suggest Monty could be to blame, since after all he did end up replacing Bonnie as the new bass player after his accident. But was it really an accident? Let's look what the bags say. Quote, "The bowling alley needs a retheme. While most of the Bonnie art was removed, kids keep asking where's Bonnie? Do we have an officially approved response?" Which makes it seem like Bonnie isn't simply out of commission, but we can get even more specific. Quote again, 12:24 a.m., Bonnie is seen leaving his green room in Rockstar Row headed east towards the atrium. 2:40 a.m., Bonnie enters the East Arcade. 4:12 a.m., Bonnie enters Monty Golf. And considering how that's where the log ends, we can be pretty certain that Bonnie ate the dust over at Monty Golf, which would make even more sense given that Monty replaced Bonnie, became more popular than Bonnie, and then was also the last place Bonnie was seen. Seems pretty sus to me. I mean, maybe Monty was the one who should have been venting. And at 3, pizza rumors. Again found in one of the lore duffel bags, we get quite an interesting parallel between Fazbear Entertainment and Chuck E. Cheese. Found in a party room outside the Moondrop Daycare, we can find, quote, recycled pizza? Customer complaint. The pizza we ordered was weird. Some pieces were different sizes or didn't fit together. One slice even had different toppings. Did you recycle the old pizza from the trash? I am never coming back here unless I am given some form of major discount. Angry mom. End quote. And while they're also playing on the Karen tropes seemingly, this also has a larger reference to the conspiracy theory that Chuck E. Cheese was recycling their pizzas. It was talked about by everyone from Shane Dawson to Matat, with Matat seemingly proving the rumors false, since they ordered a pizza from Pascali's Pizza and from the actual Chuck E. Cheese, which are made in the same kitchen, and the pizzas from Chuck E. Cheese still looked janky as hell, when it's literally impossible to get recycled pizzas because of a pandemic. So it's not true, but it's certainly an interesting Easter egg nonetheless. Penultimately, in at number 2, Arcade Conspiracy. The Arcade Conspiracy gets its name from one of the duffel bags that you can find, where we learn that something else seems to be going on here. Quote from this Arcade Conspiracy note: exit interview. They are working together, the arcades. They are hiding something, the glitches. Glitch them all at the same time, then the princess will recognize me. She's testing me. I am not yet worthy. The others are protecting it. Let me stay. I'm so close. Just one more night, please. I can save the princess. Now it's clear that this seems to be referencing the Princess Quest minigames, however it doesn't really seem like we have to glitch the Princess Quest games in order to win. We just have to beat them in orders from 1 to 3 and then boom, we save Vanny. So what could the rest of this mean? Well, there are 3 other arcade machines that seem to be having mysterious glitches as well. The Balloon Boy World game that you can find in the theater and the secret area, Chica's Feeding Frenzy, which won't turn off even when unplugged, that you're supposed to be able to find in the bakery but that hasn't been added yet, and Monty Golf Arcade, that according to its duffel bag shouldn't be in the mini golf area, but it is. So what's the deal here? What's going on with these games? And does it have anything to do with the Happiest Day minigame where we need to glitch out various minigames in order to unlock the good ending of FNAF 3? I don't know, but we won't be able to know until Chica's Feeding Frenzy is officially added into the game, because they released Security Breach without it being complete. And finally, in at number 1, Freddy and Friends. In the area where you end up forcing Chica to eat garbage in order for her to get crushed, you can find a secret door. A duffel bag will be hidden next to it, indicating that you need to take a picture of the wall to continue, and doing so results in a tiny door opening so that Freddy can't actually fit through, but you can. But the room it leads to is probably one of the most interesting things at all. A replica of the room that Mike watches the Immortal and the Restless in from Sister Location, even including the basket of exotic butters. If that wasn't bad enough, you can also see the Freddy and Friends cartoon on the TV, which explains why Steel Wool was posting them to begin with if they never intended on fully releasing the release date with them, since the security code on the wall was meant to be solved using these cartoons, which is why it's playing on the TV, so you associate that code with Freddy and Friends. But needless to say, it's certainly an interesting and pretty damn cool Easter egg, although it opens up a whole other can of worms if that's the case, since, you know, Glitch Trap was found in the final episode of that, and now this series exists in the FNAF world. I don't know, maybe I'll have to do more research on this, really, to see if there's more going on here than we realize.
Number 10, Sister Location intro. At the beginning of Sister Location, we get a major clue as to where the authorities are at when it comes to their views and suspicions surrounding William Afton. This is definitely something that is very noticeable, as it's dialogue over top of a cutscene showcasing close-ups of Circus Baby. So not super hidden, but it's also just something that I find doesn't get talked about a lot, so kinda hidden in that regard, if that makes sense. Maybe other people don't think it's a huge deal, but I think it's pretty important in regards to tracking William Afton's story. Based on the interrogation we are privy to, it seems as though William Afton might be the main suspect in a missing persons case, implying that the authorities are already onto him and may have even at some point caught him, or William simply went on the run after this and remained incognito for as long as necessary, as he was a wanted man. Either way, it sheds some important light on just how dangerous and potentially well known he is by the police in the FNAF universe. Makes you wonder how anything related to these animatronics could have ever been allowed to continue. Number 9, Lefty. Lefty is the animatronic that you can salvage or purchase in Pizzeria Simulator. We'd later learn that its initials were the clue to a dark secret that lurks within the animatronic, revealing that it is not alone or ever really kinda sentient on its own either. Lefty stands for Lure, Encapsulate, Fuse, Transport, and Extract. Initially, you might think this refers to Lefty being an animatronic used for kidnapping and capturing the souls of innocent victims, and that could also be part of the meaning behind the acronym name, but it also happens to be the animatronic that contains within it the puppet, who used Lefty to sneak into the pizzeria and resides within the animatronic. With this animatronic, you get two really for the price of one. It's definitely creepy, but also kind of efficient, at least for the purpose of collecting all the animatronics in order to free the souls trapped within them, which we find out was actually our purpose this entire time. After all, the puppet is one of the animatronics whose soul does need to be freed. So yeah, let Charlie be free! And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want us to discuss more hidden clues, secrets, and all those good bits of lore, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Every time you click that like, a new secret is revealed. It's true. Someone somewhere is reading something and is like, oh, I figured out another piece of the puzzle! Number 8. The Immortal and the Restless. The Immortal and the Restless is the name of the soap opera that we get to watch on our time away from work in between shifts in Sister Location. And by we, I mean us playing as the protagonist, Eggs Benny, aka Michael Afton. The Immortal and the Restless is believed, however, to be more than just good ol' entertainment. Many fans believe it in itself is a hidden clue and allusion to the real-world life of William Afton and Mrs. Afton. Real-world life. Clara is meant to be a stand-in for Mrs. Afton, and Vlad is meant to be a stand-in for William, aka Mr. Afton. Vlad is cold and turns away from Clara, who insists that her son is actually his and the result of their love affair, but Vlad remains in denial. People think that this is meant to symbolize William Afton turning away from his family and his wife, thereby driving Clara, aka Mrs. Afton, away. It's unclear as to if he actually refused to acknowledge Michael as his own son, or if Mrs. Afton actually set the house that they lived in on fire, but most people think it's all meant to be more symbolic than literal. Number 7. Ness. We all know Vanessa, who is supposed to be one of the principal characters in the newest FNAF game, Security Breach, but is Vanessa also Ness from the emails seen in the FNAF AR mobile game Special Delivery? It seems like the answer could be yes, based on the creepy context we see from these emails sent to her. It also seems to be implied in these emails that Ness or Vanessa, if it is her, was a security transfer. These hidden clues even give us an idea of Vanessa's date of birth, with her username in some emails being Nessie97, as in 1997. The year she was born? Number 6. Hidden Compartment. Blueprints from Sister Location revealed this disturbing and hidden bit of lore. Through them, we learned of the hidden compartments within some animatronics' chest cavities. Freddy had one, and Circus Baby had one as well. And the other surprising fact is that we found these compartments because they seemed to be full, or at least were imagined as being full in these blueprints. With the chest cavities or stomachs of these animatronics, we saw little bodies curled up into a fetal position. It seemed like these animatronics were indeed made for kidnapping unsuspecting and naive victims. Small victims. Number 5. Vanessa A. Another huge clue that came from the emails in Special Delivery seems to indicate that Vanessa could indeed somehow be related to the Afton family. That comes from an employee listing where we learn, like I said earlier, about her transfer. We are given the name Vanessa A there, and that one initial for her last name, A, sticks out like a sore thumb. What else begins with A, you ask? Only one of the most important surnames in all of FNAF lore, that of William and his family, Afton. This has led fans to believe that Vanessa could actually be Vanessa Afton and has some direct relation to the family tree. But the question remains, if Vanessa is an Afton, just how is she related to William and the gang? Number 4. Bellora's Song. The fate of Mrs. Afton is something that has been alluded to a few times in the games, but something that has yet been undefined is who exactly she is. We don't even know her name, nor do we know exactly her relationship to William Afton. We assume that the two were romantically involved and have children. Part of the reason why we assume the romance is because of this clue. That is the animatronic Bellora and her song. Bellora sings about missing someone who it seems has withdrawn into themselves. Before, she and this person were once happy, but now they have shut her out and resigned themselves to loneliness, closing up. It is possible this song is meant to represent the separation that happened between William Afton and Mrs. Afton, or is meant to symbolize his grief over losing her. Number 3. 1997 plus 23 equals 2020. Math! Another huge clue that we get from Special Delivery, with the help of some basic math of course, is the year in which security breach likely takes place. We can piece together that Nessie, Ness, or Vanessa was born in 1997 based on her username. We then know that Vanessa A is listed as being 23 years old, and from there we can figure out, if we add those two numbers together, that if Vanessa is 23 in the present day, which we assume these emails are from, the security breach takes place in 2020, when Vanessa A would have likely gotten transferred and of course be 23. Now this could be a red herring, and security breach could be set in a different year, either in Vanessa's past or her future, or perhaps Vanessa from security breach is not Vanessa A or Ness at all from Special Delivery. But that would be a lot of weird coincidences and misleads when it comes to what appears to be pretty direct clues, if you piece them together. Number 2. Mrs. Afton's fate? Mrs. Afton's fate has been a much debated topic. In fact, it's even been debated if Mrs. Afton ever existed at all. We are led to believe, however, based on the clues we gather along the way from the games and the books, that it is very likely that some version of her existed. Whether she was married to William Afton, or was only his girlfriend, or perhaps his one-time lover. Mrs. Afton, or whatever her name might be, is believed to be the mother of William Afton's children. But we don't really know what happened to her after that. Did she leave William? Did she die? Did they get a divorce? In the book end story 1:35 AM from Fazbear Frights, we see an allusion to her with a connection to a line in Sister Location. Based on this story and that line, both of which potentially being clues, it seems as though Mrs. Afton may have actually died in Circus Baby's entertainment and rental in the Sister Location, possibly an event. The question is, was her death just a tragic yet unavoidable fate? Or were the animatronics responsible? Or was William perhaps himself behind it? If that is, after all, even what happened. Number 1. Evan. Crying Child's place in the Afton family, and even his very existence to some extent, has been debated for quite some time. But recently, we finally may have made a breakthrough in terms of understanding who he is as a character, or at the very least, what his name is. Based on a potentially solved puzzle from the survival logbook, we've been led to believe that Crying Child may in fact be named Evan. However, it is possible that this isn't the solution we were meant to find, and that the puzzle still remains unsolved. But due to Evan being the name for a character who seemed to be the younger brother of Michael that appeared in Fazbear Fright's Blackbird story, The Real Jake, it seems like Evan may actually be the name and identity of Crying Child. Did we solve it? I think we solved it!
In a 10 false conviction. On an old timeline video, Shauna S commented, quote, "Quick little theory. You know how in the first game it says the killer was convicted for the murders? If that's the case, I think Henry was falsely convicted, but since they couldn't find the bodies, he got 25 to 30 years and got out of prison when Fazbear Frights happened. It explains to me why he wasn't involved in the first few games. I will say I've heard a lot of different information concerning the missing children's incident, so my theory could be wrong, just wanted to put it out there." Honestly, Henry being falsely imprisoned, or at least falsely accused for the missing children's incident does explain a lot. Considering how there were no bodies though, there wouldn't be much forensic evidence. So the case would rely on circumstantial evidence to get a conviction. So the case could have dragged on for a while if it even went to trial. And if it was, it probably would have been going on until 1993 when the future Fazbear Frights location closed with William inside. 30 years is a lot of time for new evidence to come to light as well, and maybe Henry got out even earlier than that but didn't act until William was freed because he didn't really see a point. Well, the whole he was convicted thing could be explained away by Scott not thinking that there would be another game, let alone like 9 others. Maybe he just wanted to have the story of the killer end as well. Who knows? In at 9, the fourth child. Okay, I've proposed the idea that perhaps William and his wife, or baby mama, but most likely for this scenario, wife, would have had 4 kids instead of the 3 that we see in game. This was actually mostly based off The Immortal and the Restless, the TV series from Sister Location, where a woman is telling a character most assumed was meant to represent William that he had a son that was clearly his, but he was denying it. And after looking at genetics and then trying to explain it to people in my life who didn't really understand, it just goes to show how likely the actual scenario is. If the babies came out blonde like Elizabeth, William might just have thought that they weren't his. So what if later William realized that the baby was his and wanted her back? Or perhaps I'm wrong about the whole he denied it thing, and it was just a theory, until a comment from YouTube user Saber Sapphire on the Tiny Details Part 7 video from ages ago. I think we can all agree that Clara is an allegory for Mrs. Afton, and that William made Ballora as a way to cope with her loss. We can also agree that she's a mother figure to the Mini-Renas, and that's what got us all thinking that she was meant to be the mother in the first place, aside from her song at least. Well, Saber pointed out that the number of Mini-Renas that Ballora has is 4. Ballora has 4 children, and if she is meant to represent the mother of the Afton kids, this detail could solidify this theory even more. And maybe, just maybe, that's where Vanessa came from. In at 8, the Bite of 87. The survival logbook makes yet another unscheduled appearance in my life, but this time either solidifying or making the Bite of 87 even more confusing. The Bite of 87 being the mysterious incident where someone, presumably Jeremy from FNAF 2, gets his frontal lobe bitten off by an animatronic. We thought that we had the animatronic pinned as Mangle, but then Ultimate Custom Night comes along and proposed that maybe it was Toy Chica, using the line, "Where's my beak?" lodged in your forehead, of course. I mean, what else could that frickin' mean, right? However, I think the logbook can actually give us more of an answer as to who done did it. As if we could forget about the incident. That damn thing is ingrained in our brains so bad that we think the Bite of 83 is the Bite of 87, but it's not. Since, on page 87, we see a couple animatronic cage matches, with you determining the winner and then explaining why. On page 86, this is also the case, with both pages having debates between animatronics. However, Mangle is the only one that appears on page 87, and is clearly set up to win, being pitted against Balloon Boy. Chica is also present within these kind of cage matches, but she's on page 86 against Freddy, which is a much more fair matchup, okay? Maybe, like, is this Scott correcting us from what we thought in Ultimate Custom Night? I don't know, maybe. Tell me what you think in the comments. And at 7, Springtrap's Revenge. Yet another questionable business decision from Fazbear Entertainment. Springtrap's Revenge is a VR game that is the subject of the Fazbear Fright story in the Flesh from Bunny Call, the 5th book in the series. The story revolves around a game theorist, a developer named Matt, who creates a Springtrap AI using all of his anger from a divorce and multiple failed relationships. #relatable. However, the game is too difficult, so instead Matt reprograms the game to torture Springtrap because he gets mad at the character he created. My question is though, why would they make a whole VR game around surviving Springtrap when he was a real-life serial killer in their reality? I don't get it. Like, sure, in our world we wouldn't care, cause he's not real, but it's not like Valve or Stress Level Zero is making a Ted Bundy or like John Wayne Gacy survival game, okay? Because that would be in poor taste. And way too real for anyone related to the victims of those killers. So, why would Fazbear Entertainment willingly make a video game revolving around the killer that ruined their reputation in the first place, not to mention was their CEO? It seems like a horrible idea. And it has greater implications for just how the series is in general. It's stupid. Why? Who would buy that? Probably everyone. And at 6, Mediocre Melodies. Okay, now this isn't entirely new news, or news at all at this point, but we learned the origins of the Mediocre Melodies crew, alright? What seemed like random additions in FNAF 6 were actually set up 3 games earlier. FNAF 3's Night for Phone Calls has Phone Guy talking about multiple and simultaneous springlock failures occurring at a sister location. This isn't the place that we visit in that game, but rather just another Fazbear location, where he says that, quote, "The company has deemed the suit's temporarily unfit for employees, and that the classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location while being looked at by our technician. Until replacement arrives, you will be expected to wear the temporary costumes provided to you. Keep in mind they were found on very short notice, so questions about appropriateness and relevance should be deflected. And while that could have been just some like crappy knockoff Frank Fazbear costumes from AliExpress or from like Spirit Halloween, the line of questions about relevance should be deflected seems to point that they aren't the normal Fazbear crew. And you know what? That would be the mediocre melodies. I mean, come on, his name is Ned Bear. Also, if you're enjoying this video and want to see more FNAF, because I know you all want to, you all love when we talk about FNAF, and none of you think that we're doing it too much, be sure you hit like and subscribe, because come on, it's fun. I yell a lot. It's my whole thing. Halfway through into number 5, Matat is canon, kinda. Thanks to the Fazbear Frights book Bunny Call, and more so, like I said, the story in the flesh, Matat is basically canon in the FNAF universe. Like sure, it's kinda nuts that in essence Scott wrote an Mpreg fanfic about Matat, but the crazier thing is that it makes Matat canon in FNAF, technically, since his name isn't Matthew Patrick, and he's working on a new FNAF game, not a new FNAF theory, but he's basically Matpat's in-universe stand-in, alright? Like, while game theory or Daco may not be canon, the essence of Matat is canon, and he ended up getting killed by a plush trap baby that crawled his way out of his stomach. Yeah, I haven't finished that story, and I don't think I ever will because I was cringing so hard, but I don't understand how working on a video game turns into an animatronic crawling out of your stomach, killing you instantly, but hey, it's FNAF, and we've had people be possessed by video games, so who knows at this point? Anything is fair game. And you know what, if Choo Choo Charles shows up, that's just par for the course. And this is also yet another instance of someone escaping from a game and entering the real world, and I don't want to deal with that. And there's also the one instance of someone saying it's just a theory, and then the book pointing out that they say it like their favorite YouTuber. So yeah, Matat and game theory are canon in the FNAF world. Or maybe game theory is like a true crime theory podcast, where the host at the end says it's just a theory to avoid any legal issues. Also, fun fact, I didn't know what Mpreg fanfic meant until I had to look it up for this video. My sister told me. I was ashamed. In at 4, Cover Shadow. A while ago, I purchased the Freddy Files Updated Edition book, okay, in an effort to get more details and really find what things seem to be the most important about the series. It's an excellent place to find confirmed details, but one thing I noticed a while after getting the book was that there's a shadow on the front cover. If you look closely, or if you just actually can see what's going on, unlike me, you can actually make out the shape of a Freddy standing behind you, which I have to say is pretty damn terrifying, because this implies that basically anyone who learns about the Fazbear secrets because of this book, which is prevented like secret files on the cover, will get got by Freddy. Yeah, this makes me think that there is certainly something more to this company, definitely something more shady that we weren't considering or aren't considering or that just hadn't been presented yet. But it's still, it could not, it might not be that deep, but let's be honest, it's Scott, it probably is. So yeah, this one cover shadow shows us that Fazbear Entertainment is ready to silence anyone who learns too much for any reason, which is why I'm still alive. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Crash to Desktop. Golden Freddy is the most mysterious animatronic of FNAF 1, okay? Being able to move through closed doors while staying limp with no endoskeleton and can even cause hallucinations like It's Me and Eyeless Bonnie, along with changing posters on the frickin' walls. I originally figured that they could do all this because of other emotions, but why would they crash us to the desktop when they jump scare us? It's a weird moment, especially the first time, but it's certainly going to crash you whenever you get killed by this freaky fiend, so it definitely means something. But this does have bigger implications than we originally thought, since now the series is about video games interacting with the real world apparently, and even FNAF World actually had those themes, setting up clock clues for the FNAF 3 good ending, but this is the first instance of FNAF interacting with kind of reality, and it's our reality, like not the in-game reality that we would assume. Maybe. Because, you know what? This also happens with Nightmare in FNAF 4. So my thinking was, is this symbolic of death? And you know what? Since Golden Freddy is more than likely just a hallucination, be sure you check out the video on that over there if you want more about it. Could this just be symbolic of like your brain or your heart giving out under intense stress? I think so. That's it, yeah. Penultimately, and at number 2, Hanging Scientists. The sister location Hanging Scientists weren't there before they're revealed to us, because it's meant to show us that Ennard is able to kill and is willing to kill anyone to get his way. But that also means that there were other people working here. while we were there during sister location. I don't know why there were, since it was literally filled with deadly animatronics, and the only reason we were sent there was to put her back together like William had somehow asked us to do. But like, why were there other people there? Was the business still running? Is that what Chica's Party World was? Because like, we know that they had been renting out animatronics, but why were there so many still there? Especially when they were only used for like a day. I mean, like, we know why Baby wasn't rented out, but the others? I don't know. It's weird. But hey, I'm not here to judge how someone runs their business, but also that's exactly what I've been doing with every new FNAF list recently, okay? Just blasting William and Henry for their various OSHA and just human decency violations. So yeah. And finally, in at number 1, Scrap Trap. What happened to Springtrap between games to cause such discrepancies in his design? Sure, he was burnt in FNAF 3, but we then see him alive and well and then not damaged in Sister Location's Night 7 ending cutscene with burnt down Fazbear's Fright. So where did all this additional damage and warping and expanding come from? The head seems to be larger on Scrap Trap and so do his feet, so I genuinely don't know how this would make any sense, or at least I didn't. We know that they were the same person thanks to Ultimate customized voice lines, but I was so confused as to what could have happened until it recently dawned on me. In my What If Golden Freddy Was a Hallucination video, like I've already linked to it, I talked about how that would mean that FNAF 4 was a game made by Scott's in-universe version, since the nightmare aesthetic could be to avoid copyright issues. And considering how everyone who should have known about the scrap animatronics should have died at the end of Pizzeria Simulator, but then the scrap animatronics show up in other games like Ultimate Custom Night and even FNAF VR, in a sense, it makes me think that these characters are less than real, and that the discrepancies between Springtrap to Scrap Trap to Burn Trap are just because Scrap Trap is a fake animatronic, or well, it's a redesign of Springtrap to avoid copyright when Scott was working on his in-universe games, or at least when Scott's in-universe counterpart was making the games. And his deal with Fazbear Entertainment caused the nightmares to be able to be present in Help Wanted, which wouldn't really make sense if they were real nightmares of a deathbed crying child. Plus, I think that we can all get nightmares from FNAF now. And
Number 10, Desk Man. Many believe that Desk Man is actually William Afton or Scott Cawthon. We don't know for sure, but he definitely seems to be someone who is meant to be either of those creators, just based on all the words that he says. Desk Man at one point asks you about deactivating his games, which makes him seem like he's Scott, who makes games. However, at another time he tells you that it is too late to do anything as Baby is here and she can't be deactivated, which makes him seem like he's actually William Afton. Desk Man overall is definitely a mystery and secret just waiting to be solved. His death and the words he says could reflect the games or the lore, depending on which role he's actually meant to resemble. Number 9, the show will begin momentarily. When you go to see Desk Man, there is a direct reference to Sister Location that can be spotted, or rather, heard. You can hear the version of Circus Baby from FNAF World saying out loud, "The show will begin momentarily. Everyone please stay in your seats." While the lights are out, it's here that Desk Man ends up being killed. We don't know if it's Baby that causes his death or whether he does so himself. And friends, before we move on to our next spot, just a quick reminder to please click like if you love this video. Anytime that you click like, you know we get a day closer to a new FNAF game. Actually, if we get a certain amount of likes, I think we get the new FNAF game like right now. I'm just kidding, that's not gonna happen. But if you want more FNAF, you can also check out our playlist. Number 8, Instant Refight. Refight? Is that a thing? Now it's a thing. I made it a thing. You're welcome. For Pork Patch, who is one of the bosses in the game and is terrifying by the way, there is a little secret that you might find useful while playing, which allows you to refight him immediately after you fail. If you fail. Hopefully you don't fail. Pork Patch just looks like some Frankenpig animatronic by the way, like an animatronic that may or may not have been made out of real pork, which is now like rotting away. I'm a little disturbed. For the Pork Patch fight, there is a little shortcut you can use, sailing on your little lily pad around and down and hitting a button in the world to refight him again. And if you didn't know about that, now you know. Number 7, the honking sound. Throughout the game franchise, there have been little Easter eggs strewn about that allow you to create a honking sound, usually by clicking on something. In the first game, this would happen when clicking on the poster. In the fourth game, this would happen when you clicked on the plushie on the bed. In FNAF World, the nose honk sound also exists, and you can find it when clicking Freddy's nose on the title screen. So if you're wondering where that honk noise went and you were hoping it was somewhere in here, you can enjoy finding it right at the beginning of the game. Honk honk! It also kinda sounds like one of those noisemakers that rolls out. What are those called? A party favor? A party blower? A party horn? You know what I mean, the things. They roll out. Number 6. Finding the clock ending. This is an ending that you need to be patient in order to find. It will come up during a conversation with good old glitchy Fredbear. You gotta wait for him to get glitchy, by the way. But you can't exit out of that conversation. Don't exit out. Waiting a few moments will mean that you end up getting additional instructions, being told additionally to find the clock. The clocks are scattered throughout the game, with a few being located in the Mysterious Mine, one in Pinwheel Funhouse, another in Fazbear Hills, and one in Dusting Fields. There is a specific order in which you'll collect these clocks, starting with Fazbear Hills. Before you collect each one, you will receive additional instructions to help you know where to look, and each one can be activated by completing a puzzle or solving a game. You will then have to battle Pork Patch to receive the key, which gets you access to a warp circle, which takes you to this secret ending. So many steps. It's also believed that you need to play the game on hard mode to unlock this ending. Number 5. FNAF 4 ending. The clock ending will reveal the same character from when you first started the game. This character will reassure you that we are still your friends, but asks if you still believe that. This is similar to the ending that we see from FNAF 4, but instead of telling the player that they will put them back together again, they are instead told by the character, who is obviously meant to resemble everyone's favorite psychic friend Fredbear, but shrouded in darkness, that the pieces are in place for you, but you yourself will need to find them. This ending also gives you the Crying Child trophy, which is obviously another tie to FNAF 4. Number 4. Halloween Land. Halloween Land is an update that was added to FNAF World. However, it is an area that you can only access after beating the game. It doesn't just appear as bonus content, unlike other game updates and bonus content. One of the ways you can find and access this area is to visit Deskman after beating the game. Once you talk to him and leave his home, Fredbear will appear outside and open up a portal for you. Oh, thank you, how convenient. Moving through that portal takes you to Halloween Land, or the Halloween Backstage Update area, whichever you prefer to call it. Number 3. Secret Graveyard Path. In the graveyard, there is a path that takes you all the way to the beginning of the game. This shortcut can be very useful, especially if you are trying to achieve certain objectives in order to unlock trophies, endings, or other such achievements in-game. Once you've unlocked Halloween Land, this path will also become available to you, if you can find it. In order to do so, you'll need to position yourself between 2 rocks near the windmill in Fazbear Hills. From there, move left until you hit a tree. If you continue to move left without stopping, you will eventually move through that tree, sort of phasing through it, and enter Halloween Land. Ooh, spooky. Number 2. Old Man Consequences. This is an ending you have to get to in a very specific way. Okay, let's go. You have to get here by visiting glitches and moving in a very specific path to the 4th one. Once you access that glitch, it will take you to a subtunnel with nothing but some trees, a lake, and a man who is fishing on that lake. This man appears to be glitch-like himself and is red with jagged teeth and seems to be kind of shaped like a crocodile? This is Old Man Consequences. He will tell you that you have bottomed out in the code, and so this is basically the end of the line for you, and you must just accept it. This is one of the alternate endings you can get. However, if you've gotten every other ending in the game and been here multiple times before, it's actually possible to beat and kill Old Man Consequences, who doesn't really put up a fight. I guess he's just at peace with his lot. He's like, we're at the bottom of the code, you're killing me, whatever. Number 1. Final Boss. Although there are a myriad of endings in FNAF World, the secret and final boss for this game, the final boss, can only be unlocked and beaten once you have defeated all 4 Guardians and have played through the game on hard mode. Doing so will mean you can finally head to the red tent and enter it, which will allow you to approach the final boss fight. Who is the final boss in FNAF World? Why, it's none other than Scott Cawthon, of course. Well, Scott Cawthon does seem to have similarities or connections to Deskman in the game, which we talked about earlier. This is his real in-game version. Once you instigate the fight and face off with Scott in-game, he will tell you, it was fun being the puppet master, but now I grow weary. It is time to put you in your place. This fight is a tough one, by the way, but if you manage to succeed, Scott will use his dying breath to ask you, was this really the ending you wanted? Coming all the way here just to kill me? Was I really the villain in your mind? He'll tell you that he hopes you feel good about yourself killing him, and ending the story by killing the storyteller. Bursting into pixels, the words "the end" will then come up on screen.
And at 10, lives. I think the one thing that would have changed everything is if FNAF had a life system. Sure, you can go back and you can try the night again after you fail night 5 thanks to the continue button, but I think lives would have made the game much worse rather than better. Part of the appeal of the game is that you have one shot, and while yes, it saves what night you're on, you still need to restart everything, and I think lives would take away from that, even though it's basically the same thing, unless the lives would get you to continue the night that you were literally currently playing. Like if you got jump scared at 5 AM, you'd still be at 5 AM, which would kind of break the game, especially if you use the glitch where you can continue a jump scare for a long time while still continuing the night. With the system it has, lives are kind of redundant, but we know that that was planned thanks to gameplay that was left on Scott's YouTube channel from the development days of the first FNAF game. I can't believe this game has gone from a last-ditch attempt to being featured next to God of War and Call of Duty. That's insane. And at 9, Glamrock wardrobe swap. This is something that I didn't even notice until I went into the comments of the first Security Breach trailer. Yeah. In summer of 2020, Funko leaked the designs of the action figures for Security Breach, thus leaking the designs of the animatronics. People were pissed about this, obviously, since Scott had specifically told Funko not to release anything, or at least I think we figured as much. Like, I don't know if he made a post about it or something like that, but like, Funko leaks things a lot. Anyway, the designs of the characters from the actual game are different to those that the action figures had. The designs are different, okay? This is most notable on Roxanne's clothing, where Scott moved the black star shapes, and on Monty's guitar, where he removed or moved the black stripes to be smaller or something like that. Chica's guitar is also a lighter blue and mostly white, as opposed to the white and darker blue of the original action figure, and the animatronics in the trailer are properly proportioned. The action figure heads, they just weird me out. Like, the normal pop heads, that's fine, but like, when it's an action figure that's supposed to be properly proportioned, I don't like it. And at 8, Immobile Freddy. The original FNAF that Scott had in mind is not at all like the one we know today. Well, it is in the sense of this is what he wanted to make, but so many ideas and mechanics were added and changed that while we know FNAF is a point and click that gets progressively harder, adding more animatronics later on in a playthrough, that wasn't what Scott had planned from the beginning. In a statement on Reddit, Scott revealed that he originally had plans to make Freddy only jump scare you if you run out of power, and that he never wanted him to leave the main stage. Eventually this changed, and we'll probably never really know why. Maybe it was because the game was too easy, or maybe he wanted to see how things would go with 2 animatronics in the same hallway, or perhaps he had Freddy moving around but got jump scared randomly and kept it in, or he just wanted to torture us more like the sadistic fool we all know and love him to be. I don't know, okay? Why did you do this to me, Scott? Why? Like, I'm kidding. Just please notice me. Sky Daddy Scott. I'm bringing it back. Sky Daddy Scott. And at 7, Mangle Vent. FNAF VR introduced the vent repair minigames, featuring Mangle and entered in some of the scariest experiences I've been through, okay? I've played through the Mangle vent repair from that game on this channel, actually, and it was terrifying. Now, despite my idiocy in that same video, dealing with 3 vents was fairly simple, okay? They open one by one. They open one by one, and then you kind of have to just look down them. However, it was actually planned to have another vent at the top of the elevator. So every time you see that opening and you think that Mangle may pop up there, Mangle was planned to have 4 entry points the whole time, and not one behind you, no, one above you. Can you imagine how rude of an awakening that would have been if nobody had noticed it? And how incredibly terrifying it would have been if it was implemented? It would be over. Anakin, Mangle has the high ground, and I am 100% certain that it would have caused a lot more deaths. I know that I would have died if Mangle had come through the top. Imagine. I don't want to deal with that. No, like, they're over top. They have so much more power when they are above you. I don't want to deal with it, no. And at 6, the box. The infamous box that was first released with the ending to FNAF 4, saying some things are best left forgotten for now. But, that for now was kind of like a politician's campaign promise. They never really followed through, because we never really found out what was in the box. However, the community seems to think that the contents of the box have changed. Originally, it was believed to have been dream theory, since Scott originally said the community may not accept what was in the box. However, there are also multiple other theories, like the box contains the body of Crying Child, which we heard from Matat. It was also rumored to have been revealed in the Security Breach teaser game. like the Fury's Rage, the side-scrolling beat-em-up one. Then I don't think that was a thing. I can't see that, but like people were claiming that it does. If anyone has links to that, you can send them to me on like Instagram or something. Don't put them in the comments because YouTube might auto-delete links. I don't know. And apparently the box was supposed to be revealed in FNAF World, and they decided not to do it. And the box has changed a lot. Okay, all right. Deal with it. Halfway through into number 5, blacklight mode. You may not have seen the blacklight animatronics if you aren't paying attention to the merch, but if you did pay attention to the merch, you would have seen them, okay? They released blacklight plushies and pop figures a long time ago without any real explanation. Well, as it turns out, these alternate colored animatronics are actually for Help Wanted's blacklight mode, or hard mode, whatever you want to call it. You don't actually get to see them unless you boundary break, since the animatronics are hidden behind the curtains that don't open in blacklight mode, but they are still there. They also appear in the parts and service repair games, but since the room's so dark, you can't actually tell that they're blacklight. Although technically, if you think about it, they're kind of scrapped. But they are in the game, even if you can't see them. It depends on how you want to take changed, okay? Because technically they were scrapped, but technically they're also still included, but you can't tell that they were included. I don't know. You know what? It's my list. I can do whatever I want, okay? The blacklight animatronics were a change. That's it, okay? But you know what I want to change? I want a glitch and glitch trap pop figure, okay? That's what needs to change. That's not a thing. They need to make it a thing. Also make a Vanny pop figure, please. Like a dummy thick one, specifically. Thank you. Minute 4, Rogue Mechanics. If you're an avid fan of this channel or of Ultimate Custom Night, you may already know about this detail, but in fact, the mechanics of a few characters have actually changed after just one day. Nightmare Freddy, Phone Guy, and Foxy were all implemented on April 1st of their specific year, with their behaviors based on incorrect theories, basically using that to disprove them in that moment and then torturing us and William with them. Phone Guy couldn't talk while Springtrap was on the move because, you know, he can't be in two places at once because Phone Guy's supposed to be William, yeah. Nightmare Freddy, when jump scaring you, would actually wake you up for a nightmare for a bit and then you'd fall back to sleep and go back into the game to finally show us that dream theory is wrong. And Foxy would come help you out by blocking a doorway because people thought that Foxy was a good guy. Those are neat ways of disproving theories, but like, really, Scott? You had to use the whole Foxy as a good guy theory and not something more impactful? Like, it's kind of a troll if you ask me. The next day, however, the mechanics were switched to what they are now. Getting close to the end, in number 3, cameras. The beta for FNAF was full of unused or cut features. Some of these were interesting, like the original camera map, while now we see boxes that indicate the rooms where the cameras are located and then lines leading to the other rooms and the hallways and such. Originally, we actually saw the entire layout at once, and we could actually see the directions that the cameras were facing, showing us what we'd really be looking at. I can see how this would be useful, but since the game plays more like a slideshow in a way, instead of the animatronics free roaming, we didn't really need all that information. And the design that we know and love today really kept it simple and accessible, and that's all we really needed. They'll end up in one position on that camera, then they'll be in another, and then like knowing the direction of the camera in this case doesn't really matter. It would have been interesting for sure, and like maybe you could have included that in Security Breach, because that would have been useful. You should have included this in Security Breach. What the hell? I'm mad about this. Like, cause like you just click on the box and then you're like, oh, where's this supposed to be looking? I don't know if it's looking at me or not. Do it! Fix it! Penultimately, in number 2, co-op mode. Believe it or not, FNAF was actually going to include a multiplayer mode. Well, at least in Help Wanted. In the game files, there is a folder called Multiplayer that has several files stored within it. These files are named Character Info Table, MP Game Mode, and so on, suggesting that multiplayer mode was actually planned with this release. But now, it's kind of unclear whether it was intentionally scrapped or maybe saved for a future game or something, maybe to build hype, maybe they were just testing it out. Like, I don't know. Do you have a theory about that? Like, do you know if multiplayer mode is going to return, or no one knows, but like, do you think multiplayer mode is going to return or not, or make an appearance in this game, in Security Breach, or in a future game? What would multiplayer mode look like? Would you play it? Let me know in the comments, okay? My theory is that the multiplayer mode may have been for the trailer, since you can see the hands and the head of the person who's actually playing. But it could be something else. I don't know. Well, I don't know why they wouldn't remove the files from the game,
or like why they would call it multiplayer if it was for the trailer and only for the trailer.
And finally, in at number 1, the FNAF story we know and love, but also rage at on a daily basis. Just kidding, that's just me. Well, it's a complicated story that makes everyone want to cry, and specifically me cry myself to sleep. Could have been a lot simpler, and just straight to the point. 3 games, 1 story. Yes, that's right. In case you missed it in previous videos, the FNAF story was only actually meant to be 3 games long, with William dying in FNAF 3's fire. However, the community thought that the Springtrap jump scare was disappointing, so Scott overcorrected in FNAF 4 with the nightmares. But then we got more confused, so we had to continue. The story could have been 3 games long, okay? Maybe even no book series, no movie, no Fazbear Frights books. Yeah, like how insane is that? That's stupid. This is a 9-game long story that could have been a third of its length. God damn it. This makes me rethink my whole life. Like, is this really what this channel should be covering? Like, I like talking about Skyrim. I love Skyrim. Why can't I talk about Skyrim? Because you don't click on anything that's not FNAF.
And at 10, FNAF 4 House. Starting off with the most recent game in the series, Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted Curse of Dreadbear DLC. If you decide to take a break from all the spook, you are able to get some special views of the scenery that had quite a lot of effort put into it. They have special events like Dreadbear rising out of the blood red sea and walking into a barn behind you, Foxy's ship swaying over that very same sea, and the ever so looming Dreadbear spawning giant-sized over the hills. But finally, we can actually place where this Halloween festival is taking place. In the distance on the hill, you are able to see the silhouette of a very familiar house, the same silhouette that appears in Five Nights 4. This house is commonly believed to be the Afton's family residence, which implies some things that will be taken into account later in this list. There's a lot of Help Wanted stuff in here because everyone has already picked the other hidden secrets to shreds, so like I gotta use the new stuff. Like, there's not really an option. Except for number 9, IV, flowers, and pills. One of the most common theories about what is happening in Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is that what we are experiencing is happening in the mind of the crying child, who is laying in a hospital bed because of the bite and who will die at the end of the game. This theory was first brought on by the Easter eggs of an IV, a vase of flowers, and a jar of pills that can be visible next to the child's bed when the screen is brightened, because we all know how much we love to brighten screens now. These are no doubt referencing the fact that we are just truly waiting in the hospital, just approaching our deaths, thanks to the flatline we hear at the end of the game. This led to the idea that the whole game series is a dream, and that you can play as the crying child in all of them, living out a life full of terror thanks to the animatronics that took your sister. And at 8, Ultimate Custom FNAF World. This Easter egg was pointed out by Matat in one of his final timeline videos for Ultimate Custom Night, where he started the video spending 10 minutes downloading a fresh copy of both FNAF World and Ultimate Custom Night so that nothing had been unlocked yet. In FNAF World, you were able to dive deep into the game's code and visit Old Man Consequences, who will say some things and then ultimately make you drown yourself because you need to get out. This reveals the secret ending of the game and gives you a trophy for it. In Ultimate Custom Night, you are able to visit Old Man Consequences as well, who tells you to leave the demon to his demons and rest your own soul. However, if you do this, you'll need to drown yourself again to leave the game. Doing this while never even playing a second of FNAF World will unlock the Old Man Consequences trophy, which is odd, but might be Scott's way of saying that the game is still canon. I mean, it did talk about sentient code and things in the game affecting the things in the real world, since you lay out clues for FNAF 3, probably hinting at the fact that the game may be the key in solving the lore going forward. Since we're seeing the same sorts of things emerge, sentient code, games affecting the outside world, it's interesting and worth exploring further. I just don't have the time for it. And at 7, Consequences. In Ultimate Custom Night, if you put Old Man Consequences in at level 1 and play his minigame, you can end up visiting his pond like in FNAF World. However, while doing this, you can hear a very faint ambiance. While it may seem like normal Five Nights at Freddy's sounds at first, when sped up it actually sounds like the distorted screams of a man. The sound goes from 2 minutes and 54 seconds to 18 seconds, and is commonly believed to be William Afton screaming in the deepest depths of hell, since we're playing as him in Ultimate Custom Night. But this also means that Afton isn't experiencing the mini game with Old Man Consequences, so how are we able to see it? And who are we playing as in this pond? Probably Golden Freddy, Cassidy, the one you should not have killed, the one who is torturing Afton for all eternity in the deepest damnation of hell because they can't leave the demon to his demons and rest their own soul. Because while there may be nothing else, at least revenge is something, right? And at 6, Endo. To find the secret, you'll need to play FNAF 2 and Help Wanted quite a bit. The fact that when you load the game, you can start off with an endoskeleton just standing in your office is honestly terrifying. And there are plenty of more secret animatronics in Help Wanted, like Helpy being behind the monitor, but he'd only get his own spot if he was buff Helpy because that would be scary. The fact that he doesn't do anything doesn't help either. We're supposed to believe that the other animatronics attack naked endoskeletons, but actually, they will leave this damn thing alone. Sure, it's because it's the first location we see in the game, so they haven't gotten that feature yet, but that just begs the question, why did they get that feature in the first place? Why did someone think it was needed for them to make this hideous beast their target? Why? Why was it required? Was it just because he was just like, oh, I'm just gonna stand around in the office, and they're like, no, get him out? I don't know. Halfway through number 5, Mini Rena and Biddy Bap. The mini Renas actually appear in Help Wanted. In the plush trap darkroom, you have the chance to see one of them in one of the doors, which is probably just a distraction tactic used by Scott just to get you to get jump scared. But it's still going to damn well work. And you can also encounter a Biddy Bap doll in Baby's mini game where you need to close the closet door in the FNAF 4 house. But not for too long, otherwise the plush babies will kill you. Yeah, you can see the Biddy Bap near the door and honestly it's just freaky. Especially because you can't look at it for too long, otherwise baby jump scares you because you still gotta close the damn door. Also, has anyone completed the game using only flat mode? Because from what I've seen, the game is way harder that way. If you haven't completed the game using only flat mode, let me know in the comments because congratulations. Holy damn. And at 4, Secret Audio. In the Corn Maze stage in the Curse of Dreadbear DLC, after collecting all 4 keys, you are able to find a 5th purple key, where if you find it, you are able to unlock the cellar in the middle of the map. If you do, you enter, finding a glitch trap bunny mask on the table of the barn you go to whenever you successfully complete a mission. Except this time, it's busted up and rotten. If you wear this mask in the main hub, which you can after unlocking it, you should hold the glitch trap plush you get after defeating him using the tape rose instructions. If you do so, you hear some creepy audio of a one-sided conversation between a female and someone else. Most likely glitch trap since you know you need to be holding his plush. It seems as if she's preparing, making sure she is ready for something, and that she's made the mask. Perhaps she is waiting for his return. I mean, there was that female rabbit with a knife in one of the latest Freddy Fazbear promos. It's probably her, in all honesty. And at 3, Spring Bonnie. In Five Nights 3 on Cam 10, there is a poster of Freddy. This is the typical sight. However, you can rarely see a Spring Bonnie replacing the poster, showing a cartoonish version of the main antagonist of the game. While this could very well just be a golden Bonnie, the fact that it appears in the game surrounding William Afton in the Springtrap suit is enough cause to believe that this is meant to be Spring Bonnie. It's a cute poster if you ignore all the blood and decay surrounding it, but I mean, it's about everyone's favorite human in a suit that got a load of spring locks shoved into him yet somehow survived until Pizzeria Simulator, where he ultimately burns to death in the worst parody of Blaze of Glory ever. At least he gets his comeuppance in Ultimate Custom Night, where he is being tortured by the souls of the damned for all eternity. Or is he? This is actually really interesting, especially if Glitch Trap is Willie Afton. Where's this all gonna be if he gets out of the game? Like what? Penultimately at number 2, Glitch Trap Dance. Again, heading to the Curse of Dreadbear DLC. While in blacklight mode, or hard mode as some call it, in the main menu, if you press the button on the back of the monitor and look at the car with its headlights on for around 10 seconds, this can trigger the sight of Glitch Trap dancing at the top of the hill near the FNAF 4 house. This seems to be pointing to the highly believed theory that Glitch Trap is William Afton, who saved his consciousness in circuit boards, who has been brought back to life in Help Wanted. This could also answer the question of whose car is sitting there. It could be the player's, but they acknowledge how the game is a game, so why would the car be yours? The fact that you need to look at the car indicates to me that it is William Afton's car, the one we see him kill Henry's kid in FNAF 2, and the one he drives in Midnight Motorist. That's what it seems like to me, and to several others as well, so there you go. Finally, in at number 1, it's me. There was only one person who was able to see this Easter egg to my knowledge, and it involves getting the Curse of Dreadbear DLC and completing the game to be taken to the victory screen. There you will find 3 posters reminiscent of the ones in the alleyway in Pizzeria Simulator. However, the issue arises when you realize that to be able to unlock this Easter egg, you need to get 3 clown posters, which is incredibly rare, and I mean like incredibly rare. Plus, then you need to hit them with darts, which you only get 4 of, and if you miss 2 of them, you're screwed. So be sure you get your skills up to par before actually finding these posters. If you do manage to do this, the barn changes to seemingly a blacklight version, where the banner changes to read "It's me" and everything starts glowing because of the blacklight. While this hasn't been completed by more than Johnny Blocks from what I've seen, it may still be true, but I mean he did also do that and then get 3 cat posters like immediately after, so he might have been hacking. I'll have to look into it on my own to see if it's real. It would take a long time though.